work trends index that came out. I wrote a piece on Forbes about it. Basically came out this week. Microsoft did it. It was the second time, Pat. And in the focus of this report really is all about looking at what is work going to look like after this pandemic. So we saw, this massive shift. Everything's going to be hybrid. Everything's going to be remote. We're never going back to the office. And Pat, guess what I've seen this week? Endless photos of managers showing pictures of teams in boardrooms getting physically back together.
I know.
It's so great that we're back together.
I know.
And it's like, all right. So what we know now is that we all wanted to be remote until we were remote. Now that we're remote, we all want to be back in person. So truth be told, it's a continuum, and you're going to find a balance. And some companies are going to be heavily remote. Some companies are going to be heavily in person, and it's not going to be right or wrong. It's going to be what fits the culture, what fits productivity. But this study basically looked at 31,000 people in 31 countries and kind of shows what we're learning as we go in terms of work. Some of the most interesting parts to me was data point about quote unquote of what's worth it to people. One of the things that the pandemic has caused is a focus on work-life balance. We've all heard about the Great Resignation with almost full unemployment in this country right now, and the amount of choice in our industry, Pat. I mean, if you want a job and you're any good, you would have to be literally sitting at home, eating Cheetos in your underwear to not get hired. And you might still get hired. That's how much demand there are. But, people in the report are basically coming out and saying they're more likely to put their personal life ahead, health and wellness ahead of work. 53% are more likely now than they were before the pandemic. 47% are more likely to put family and their personal lives first. Again, that's more than before the pandemic. So people are more focused on family, more focused on work life. And of course, and unsurprisingly, Pat, the charge is led by millennials and Gen Z that plan to leave their jobs in the next year. 43% are saying they're somewhat or extremely likely to change jobs in the coming year. Surprise, as an old millennial that hasn't changed jobs in a while, I feel for y'all. I cannot believe that they didn't give you the 26 weeks off when you started the job this year.
I know.
But in all seriousness, these were the kind of statistics. By the way, unsurprisingly, older workers, Gen Xers, and wait, are you a boomer or are you the forgotten generation?
Man, I'm the forgotten generation. Born in 1968, baby.
I'm totally kidding.
Heat of the Vietnam War.
So, some of the other things that were really interesting is that, people are still feel that their managers are largely out of touch. Over 50% are saying that. And by the way, 50% of leaders actually want to return to the office full time. They want to be able to take those selfies in a room with their entire team sitting there so they can watch everybody work. And then, of course, the question mark is how much does technology fill the gap? We're seeing messages increase by a ton, 30+%. But in February of 2020, messages increased by 252%. So we're seeing huge increases. But what probably isn't happening now is we're doing more meetings and we're doing less thinking time, strategy time, and of course, less culture building time. So just a couple of personal assessments on this whole thing, Pat. One is it's going to come down to a balance. Two, every company is going to have to think about what works best for them. Three, technology cannot replace all. We are way more productive. And so you have to rethink about the way we schedule work for people if they are remote and hybrid, because people can get what used to be a 40 or 50 hour week done in like 20 for sure if they're productive at home. At the same time, we've got to put health and wellness as priorities. We need to use technology not just to have more meetings, but to actually help people monitor that they're utilizing their resources effectively, that they're taking care of themselves. I think this technology is coming, things like Microsoft Viva, things that your Apple Watch or Oura Ring might tell you. We need to be sleeping well. We need to be able to get time for introspection and thinking. And we do need time with our teams in person, Pat. It's just like bestie lunches that, we go out for. Getting our team together when we did at Mobile World brought a large part of our team in person. And there is experience and team building that you just simply cannot do remotely. I don't care how good the collaboration is. But some really interesting stuff in this report. Check out the link, Pat. I'm sure you, with a quickly growing organization as well, have had some thoughts about this.
Yeah, so we've my company is going on its 11th year, and we've been remote all the time. So I've seen front and center how hard it has been to run an organization and manage an organization remotely for 11 years. Now I run a light handed operation. The average analyst is 50 years old in my organization, and I hire very mature workers. So we're either Gen X or boomers. You sucked a lot of the oxygen out of this report, which was phenomenal. But I want to make two comments. The reason that managers want to go back to work is because they're having a hard time managing their employees remotely. Okay, and first of all, I think that is that's human nature, right? It is harder to do that. And on the other side, you have people who want to live in lower cost areas, and they want to live remotely, right? And maybe that's the younger generation. I don't know. I have to tell you, I have a 22-year-old who absolutely wants to be in the office, right? She's single. She wants to meet people, and the whole remote thing. She's not in for it. So that, I think, and you didn't do this, by the way, but saying Gen Z wants this and Gen X wants this. A lot of it comes down to kind of lifestyle, right? Where, my 24-year-old daughter who's married, who is also a Gen Z, she's fine with doing remote. She's not going to work to meet a bunch of friends, right? Or find, a significant other. She already has one. Anyway, so a lot of it has to do with the place in life. And then my final piece is getting back to what I said a year ago, which was this hybrid thing is going to be harder than doing all remote, right? And we have to have better technology that enables the way that everybody wants to work. That's just the reality. So I think, Daniel, it'll probably take 3 to 5 years to fully respond to this COVID moment and get situated here, which, if I put my capitalistic hat on, I think is going to be a huge opportunity for the tech providers in this space.